most common question in an HR round is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Have you ever given a serious thought to what are your strengths and weaknesses? A very good evening to the Toastmasters and their guests.
Good evening.
Today, let us get our fundamentals clear on what can be classified as your strengths and your weaknesses. Also, let us take a look on how to identify your strengths and weaknesses and how they can help us grow. Any activity can be considered as your strength if you are able to do it consistently, happily, and effortlessly. It is an integral part of your personality. Strength can be classified as natural talent and acquired skill. A person who is born with a melodious voice can be an example of a natural talent. We take the liberty of referring to such people as born singers. Throughout our journey of life, we acquire skills consciously or subconsciously. An example of a consciously acquired skill would be most of the topmost leaders remain calm, cool, and composed under high pressure situations. It is not an easy skill to get. They put in tremendous effort to acquire that skill. An example of an unconsciously or subconsciously acquired skill is how we pick up words, new words, catchy words, slang words, by merely hearing them. We don't really have to put in an effort to remember them. It just comes to us. Now that I've enticed your mind with what classifies as strength, let us move on to weaknesses. Is it the opposite of strength? No?
No.
What it is?
Improvement.
Sorry?
Improvement.
Improvement. But it is against a strength which you have, or something that you lack. But let me tell you, dear friends, that weakness in general is not an easy topic. It is a very difficult one. One of the biggest challenge about weakness is that most of the times we are not even aware of it. It takes a tremendous effort to even identify a weakness that you have. You have to be in a situation to figure out whether it's a strength or a weakness. Once you have identified your weakness, then half of the battle is already won. Once a weakness has been identified, it can be divided into three main categories. The first category is a case where you are a misfit in a specific context. I'll give a personal example here. I am an early riser. I am the most productive and effective at work during the first half of the day. And by 10 p.m., I'm all set to call it a day. Imagine if I'm put into a late night support project. Initially, and for some time, I may be able to manage it to an extent. But in the longer run, my productivity and efficiency at work is bound to drop. Definitely, I'll get a feedback for this, and it will be listed in one of my areas of improvement. The question arises, do I really need to improve on this?
Yes. No.
I agree. The answer is no. Instead, I have to find a place where I can utilize my strength to my benefit. Simple. The second category is where you have a weakness and you work upon it consistently and transform it to a strength later. An example would be of a person who is not confident to speak in public. Through hard work, proper support systems like ToastMasters, and consistent practice, the same person can transform to a confident public speaker. I'm sure there is no room of doubt for this. The third category is where you have to live with your weakness. Many people suffer from various kinds of fears. Example, acrophobia, that is the fear of heights. Others have fear of water, fear of reptiles, fear of certain specific animals, and so on. Unless they figure out the reason behind the fear and work on it, nothing much can be done about it. They have to live with this weakness every day. Now that we have seen what can be classified as a weakness, if you observe closely, most of your weaknesses are actually strengths in hiding, waiting to be discovered. For some of us, it might be even a blessing in disguise. It is upon an individual whether they want to convert a weakness to a strength or not. After you move out of today's session, I humbly request you to please take a look at your current goal settings and your individual development plan. If your current line items requires you to spend more than required amount of effort on an incorrectly identified strength as well as weakness, then I hope by now you know which direction I am heading. Moreover, it may sound like common sense, but we can excel only by maximizing your strengths and not by fixing your weaknesses. But the irony is, most of us work in the opposite direction. The real tragedy of life is not that we do not have enough strengths, but the real tragedy is we do not use the ones that we have. Thank you. Over to you.